Okay, you guys, I don't even know how I forgot about this story when I was originally making my Misadventures and Travel series like 2 years ago. I forgot about this one, and I have to tell you about it today. In 2007, I was married. Andrew, my oldest son, was like 10. Megan was just little. Andrew's dad had decided to enlist in the military fairly late in life, okay, so in his 30s. And he was graduating from basic training, I think it was, at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Andrew's dad is also married. They have four other kids between the two of them. Andrew, my oldest son, has actually six brothers and sisters between my house and his dad's house. So, he's got kind of a lot of siblings. But anyway, at the time, everybody was going down from his family, Andrew's dad's family, to go see him graduate from basic training at Fort Sill. After he graduated from Fort Sill, he was then going to be going on to his AIS training at whatever the fort is in San Antonio, Texas. And so his wife and other kids were going to be driving him from Oklahoma City, basically, down to San Antonio for the next phase of his training after this. So they drove. I thought she was crazy. Their other two boys that are younger than Andrew were really little. And she drove all the way by herself from Wisconsin to Oklahoma with these other kids. I think his parents drove down too. I think they had two cars and they were actually kind of like caravanning, and they would split the kids among the two cars, I think is how they did it. But anyway, I did not want to do that. And Andrew did not want to do that. Andrew gets car sick. And Andrew did not want to drive that far with his stepmom and his four other siblings. And so we offered to fly him there and meet them so he could go to his dad's graduation. Okay, so my dad and I, Megan stayed home with dad and with my husband. And my dad and I flew Andrew to Dallas. I'm not sure why we didn't fly to Oklahoma City. I kind of feel like maybe that's a slightly smaller airport and we couldn't get a good price on the flight or something. Or it was even more likely that we would have had to change planes in Dallas anyway to get to Oklahoma City. And so we're like, well, that's dumb. It's not that far. We'll just rent a car. So I think that was what the deal was. So my dad and I flew down with Andrew to Dallas. We rented a car. We drove Andrew from Dallas to Oklahoma City. We took him immediately to, I think it was a Baymont, was the Baymont Suites that they were staying at, that his dad's family was staying at. We took him to the hotel. We dropped him off with them so he could go with his family to the graduation. And then my dad and I went off to do other things. Okay, thinking back on this, they had a nice hotel. I have no idea why we didn't also just stay at that hotel, get our own room and stay there. I don't know why we didn't do that. I just don't know. Okay. For some reason, we got a hotel, and I'm sorry, whoops, it wasn't a hotel. It was a motel. Motel with an M. Okay? So you know what I mean. There's not a lot of motels around anymore. This was a motel with the outside walkways and the railings and the outside doors. Okay? It was a motel. And it was in, let's just say, not a nice area of Oklahoma City. And by the time we had dropped Andrew off with his stepmom and his grandparents and stuff, it was dark. It was late at night. And so by the time we got to our motel, it was really late at night and we were just tired and we wanted to go to bed. First, I have to say that just the area around this was kind of weird. It was creepy. There was like nothing out there. We weren't exactly even quite sure where we were. We got there, we parked the car. My dad went and checked us in. We were up on the second floor of the motel. And if it's not the worst place I've ever stayed, it's in the top 3. Okay? It was very, very, very dated and old and very dirty. It was disgusting. It was so bad that I would not take off my clothes. I wouldn't walk across the floor from the bathroom to the bed without my shoes on. I was absolutely petrified of this motel room. It was really icky and scary. And so I slept, I think I even like laid down towels and slept on top of the covers because it was so icky. I don't know why we got this place. I mean, my guess is this is before the internet and being able to book things online was really a thing. I think I booked it, but I don't know how I booked it. And it was a name brand national chain. I'm not going to say what national chain it was because most of their properties are completely fine. This was a very weird exception. I don't know how I reserved it, but I just have a feeling thinking back on that trip that we didn't really have the ability to like read reviews or look at pictures online or things like that of hotels like you do now. And so I don't know if I was just calling a number. I'm really not sure. Okay, so the didn't really sleep scary night in the motel room was bad enough. But we couldn't see anything. It was as black can be when we got there at night. It was dark. And so we couldn't really see anything when we had parked the car and all that. We got up in the morning, I don't know, burned our clothes. I don't know. Got out of the motel room. We were very anxious to get out of there. It was only that one night, thank goodness. We went outside and walked across the little parking lot to the car, and we freaked out. This was in the middle of a huge prairie field that was very densely populated with prairie dogs. And I mean, like, the car is parked here against the edge of the field, and the prairie dogs were all right there, and everywhere you could see, there were prairie dogs. And I was actually freaked out. Like, I thought they could be like under the car, chewing the wires or like getting up in the car. They were everywhere. There were thousands of prairie dogs and little prairie dog holes and prairie dogs running all over the place. And it was like, it was terrifying. We were like, what is this? And they were all right there. I mean, if we had been able to see from our motel room window the night before, when we looking out of our window, all we would have seen was prairie dogs. It was as far as you could see in this big field it was a giant prairie dog field. And so why there was even a motel there, I have absolutely no idea. But anyway, we got out of there as quick as we possibly could. We did have a nice time over the next day or two, or however long it was that we were waiting to pick Andrew back up. We ended up on that trip going to the Oklahoma City bombing memorial from the Oklahoma City bombing. And that was really powerful and very well done. If you ever have an opportunity to go to the Oklahoma City bombing memorial, it's really, really good. The museum that they put in there and the chairs that are out where the building used to be, it's very powerful and very moving. And we went to that. We took a tour of the Oklahoma State Capitol, which was very interesting. If you ever get a chance, even in your own state, go on a tour of your state capitol. Those are awesome. Those tours of state capitol buildings are terrific. I've done on the one in Madison at the state capitol here like 2-3 times, and I never get sick of it. The docents who do those tours are fantastic. So we went on a tour of the Oklahoma State Capitol, and then we also went and we did a self-guided tour of historic Fort Sill. So where Andrew's dad was graduating from, which was also very interesting and really cool. And so we did all that while we were waiting for Andrew for the graduation and everything, because we weren't going to the graduation. So, and then we picked Andrew back up from being with his dad's family, and then we drove back to Dallas, and we had like a day before we had to get back on the plane to come home. My dad wanted to go to a baseball game, and the baseball stadium and Six Flags Over Texas are right next to each other, like really close together. My dad really wanted to go to the baseball game, but Andrew and I really wanted to go to Six Flags, and Andrew and I won. So we went to Six Flags. There were 2 or 3 additional nights of this trip after that first scary night where we had to stay somewhere. and we didn't have reservations anyplace. We did also find some parts of Oklahoma City that were very, very nice. So don't let this story turn you off of Oklahoma City. There were some very, very nice parts of Oklahoma City. Somehow we just picked this bizarre thing and I don't know how I found it. So if you avoid that place, which if it hasn't been torn down by now, I'd be shocked, you'll be fine. But we had to stay like 2 or 3 other places and we were just driving around. And this was the trip where we learned that you can go in and ask, can I look at the room first? So you can do that anytime. So that's my lesson to you. My lesson is twofold. One, do your research about where exactly it is you're staying before you book a place. And secondly, if you're, say you're on a road trip or something and you don't have a reservation in advance, before you decide to stay there, ask at the front desk if you can look at the room. They're very happy to do it. They will give you the key. They will let you go look at the room and you can decide, oh yeah, this is good, or no, I don't want to stay here. I didn't know before that you could do that. And so my dad and I kind of discovered this by accident. And on the rest of that trip, we did that. And every place that we checked was fine. But we were really glad that we learned that you could do that. So that's my advice to you for this Misadventures and Travel video, is to make sure you know what you're getting into before you stay at a hotel. And don't stay at motels. Thanks everyone for joining me today. Please give me a like down below if you liked this video, a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please be sure to subscribe. And if you haven't watched my other Misadventures and Travel videos, be sure to go back and watch those. I'll link that playlist at the end of this video. Thanks everyone. Safe travels.